One Love wasn't just a song, it was a test for humanity. If you've ever wondered why One Love makes you feel something deeper than just music, if you've ever sensed there was something more profound hidden in those simple lyrics, then what you're about to discover will fundamentally change how you see Bob Marley's greatest gift to humanity. Hit that like button because this isn't just another music story. This is about a cosmic test that Bob embedded in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. A test that reveals whether we're ready for the next level of human consciousness. Subscribe and turn on notifications because by the end of this journey, you'll understand why One Love was never meant to be just a song, but a mirror reflecting humanity's deepest challenge. And when you realize what Bob was really testing us for, share your awakening in the comments, because some truths can only be understood when they're lived. The story begins not with Bob Marley's birth, but with a question that haunted him from childhood. Why do humans choose separation when unity feels so natural? Growing up mixed race in 1940s Jamaica, young Robert Nesta Marley didn't just experience racism, he became a living bridge between worlds that insisted they could never connect. His white father's absence wasn't just personal abandonment, it was society's rejection of the very possibility he represented. His black mother's strength wasn't just maternal love, it was the universe preparing him to carry a message that would challenge every boundary humans had ever created. In 9 Mile, surrounded by the mystical Blue Mountains, Bob began to understand something that would take decades to fully articulate. Love wasn't just an emotion, it was a frequency, and most humans had forgotten how to tune into it. The red dirt of his childhood wasn't just soil, it was sacred ground where the first seeds of a cosmic test were being planted. Every moment of isolation, every sting of rejection, every question about where he belonged was actually preparation for a mission that would require him to belong everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. When Bob moved to Kingston's Trenchtown at age 12, he didn't just enter a ghetto, he walked into humanity's laboratory of suffering, where the raw materials for his future test were being refined in concrete and zinc. The government yards weren't just housing, they were classrooms where Bob learned that poverty wasn't about lacking money, but about forgetting your divine nature. The violence wasn't just desperation, it was humans acting out the very separation that One Love would later challenge. Here, among the sufferers and survivors, Bob began to decode something extraordinary. Music wasn't entertainment, it was a transmission system, a way to send frequencies of love through the static of human fear. The 3 boys who would become the Wailers weren't just forming a band, they were assembling a communications device capable of broadcasting on frequencies most humans had forgotten existed. Peter Tosh brought the militant energy needed to cut through resistance. Bunny Wailer provided the mystical depth necessary for spiritual transmission. And Bob carried the central frequency, the one that could make enemies remember they were family. Every harmony they created in those cramped yards was actually a training exercise, preparing them to deliver a message that would test whether humanity was ready to remember what it had forgotten. The teenage Wailers, walking into Studio One in 1963, weren't just young musicians seeking record deals. They were cosmic agents entering their first official testing ground. Clement Coxone Dodd thought he was signing a ska group, but the universe was using him to launch the most important frequency experiment in human history. Simmer Down wasn't just their first hit, it was the beta version of the test, asking listeners to choose transformation over destruction, unity over division. Bob's voice, still rough but already carrying otherworldly authority, began broadcasting on frequencies that bypassed the mind and spoke directly to souls. The studio sessions weren't just recordings, they were downloads. Moments when cosmic intelligence flowed through 3 young men who were beginning to understand they weren't just making music, they were encoding solutions to humanity's oldest problems. Each song became a piece of a larger puzzle, building towards something that would eventually crystallize into the ultimate test. Could humans hear One Love and remember who they really were? The harmonies weren't just beautiful sounds, they were algorithmic codes designed to reprogram hearts that had forgotten how to beat in sync with the universe's rhythm. By the late 1960s, Bob's encounter with Rastafarianism wasn't just a religious conversion. It was the moment he fully understood the nature of the test he'd been preparing to deliver. Marcus Garvey's teachings weren't just black nationalism, they were instructions for humanity's next evolutionary leap. Haile Selassie wasn't just an Ethiopian emperor, he was a symbol of divine consciousness wearing human form, proof that the separation between sacred and secular was an illusion. When Bob began growing his dreadlocks, he wasn't just changing his appearance. He was becoming an antenna, fine-tuning his ability to receive and transmit frequencies from dimensions most humans couldn't access. The evolution from ska to rocksteady to reggae wasn't just musical progression. It was the universe adjusting the transmission to find the exact frequency that could penetrate human consciousness most effectively. The hypnotic rhythms weren't just catchy. They were designed to induce states of consciousness where the illusion of separation dissolved naturally. Bob wasn't just singing anymore, he was becoming a living tuning fork, calibrating hearts to the frequency of universal love. Every dreadlock that grew was another strand in the cosmic web connecting him to the source of the test he would soon deliver to the world. Chris Blackwell signing Bob to Island Records in 1972 wasn't just a business decision. It was the universe providing the global distribution network needed for humanity's most important test. Catch a Fire and Burnin' weren't just albums. They were preparatory courses, teaching listeners to recognize love frequencies when they heard them. The rock-influenced production wasn't compromise, it was strategic, creating familiar sonic pathways that would allow the revolutionary frequencies to penetrate Western consciousness. While Peter and Bunny eventually chose different paths, Bob pressed forward with laser focus because he understood something they didn't. The test could only be delivered by someone willing to sacrifice personal comfort for cosmic purpose. The I3's joining the mission wasn't just about backing vocals. It was about adding feminine frequencies necessary to make the transmission complete. Marcia, Judy, and Rita brought energies that transformed Bob's masculine fire into something more nuanced, more irresistible, more complete. Together, they weren't just a band, they were a frequency team, each member contributing essential elements to the final test that was approaching. The international success wasn't just career advancement, it was the universe expanding the testing ground to include the entire planet. The assassination attempt on December 3, 1976 wasn't random violence. It was the universe's final calibration of the test, determining if the messenger had the strength to deliver love even after being shot by hatred. 7 gunmen thought they were stopping a musician, but they were actually providing the exact conditions needed to prove that love was stronger than bullets, that some messages were too important to be silenced by violence. When Bob took the stage 2 days later with his arm in a sling, he wasn't just performing, he was demonstrating the first correct answer to the test he would soon deliver globally. The question, the people who are trying to make this world worse aren't taking a day off. How can I? Wasn't just defiance. It was the universe speaking through Bob, revealing the core challenge that one love would eventually present to every human being. That 16-minute performance contained more cosmic power than most people generate in lifetimes, because it was the moment when the messenger proved himself worthy of delivering humanity's ultimate test. The blood on his shirt wasn't just evidence of violence, it was proof that love could survive anything, transform anything, heal anything, if humans were willing to choose it over fear. Exodus, recorded in London exile, wasn't just an album. It was the final preparation before delivering the test, a spiritual boot camp where Bob refined his ability to transmit love frequencies with maximum precision. The songs weren't just compositions, they were prototypes, different versions of the same cosmic transmission, each one testing a different approach to awakening human consciousness. Jamming, Waiting in Vain, Three Little Birds. These weren't just tracks, they were training wheels, preparing global consciousness for the ultimate challenge that was coming. Bob in London wasn't running from Jamaica. He was positioning himself at the perfect distance to see both his homeland and the world, with the clarity needed to deliver universal medicine. The album, spending 56 weeks on charts, wasn't just commercial success. It was evidence that human consciousness was ready for the frequency upgrade. Each week it remained in the top 40 was another 7 days of preparation. Another week of hearts gradually tuning to frequencies that would make them receptive to the final test. Bob had evolved beyond musician, beyond messenger. He was becoming a cosmic delivery system, perfectly calibrated to present humanity with its most important choice. The One Love Peace concert on April 22nd, 1978, was the dress rehearsal for the global test, a live demonstration of what One Love could accomplish when humans chose to apply it in real time. Jamaica's political violence wasn't just civil unrest. It was a microcosm of humanity's fundamental problem, the inability to see past artificial divisions, to recognize the unity that already existed. When Bob brought Michael Manley and Edward Seeger together on stage, he wasn't just staging a photo opportunity. He was conducting a live experiment in the technology that One Love represented. The moment their hands joined above his head wasn't just symbolic. It was a transmission, a download of possibility that rippled through dimensions, proving that ancient enemies could become brothers in minutes if they tuned into the right frequency. The 32,000 people in attendance weren't just an audience. They were participants in a global beta test, their cheers and tears providing data about humanity's readiness for the ultimate challenge. Bob, wielding more moral authority than presidents, wasn't just respect. It was recognition that he carried frequencies more powerful than any political position. That gesture lasted seconds but changed everything, proving that the test he was preparing to deliver could actually work. As cancer spread through Bob's body in 1980, something extraordinary happened. His physical weakening seemed to concentrate his spiritual power, as if the universe was preparing him for one final, perfect transmission of the test that would define his legacy. Uprising wasn't just an album title, it was a call for consciousness to rise up and claim its true power. Redemption Song, stripped to just voice and acoustic guitar, wasn't just a song. It was the clearest statement of the test's core challenge. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. This wasn't just lyrics. It was the universe speaking directly through Bob, presenting the ultimate choice between unconscious separation and conscious unity. His final tour became something unprecedented. Not concerts, but communion services where the messenger delivered the test in its purest form. Each performance was a transmission, each audience a classroom where souls could choose between love and fear, unity and division. When Bob spoke his final words, "Money can't buy life," he wasn't just stating a fact. He was delivering the test's final lesson, the understanding that would make One Love either meaningful or meaningless, depending on how humanity chose to receive it. One Love was never just a song. It was a cosmic examination, a frequency-based test designed to measure humanity's readiness for the next level of consciousness. Every time someone hears those opening chords, they're being presented with a choice. Will they feel the unity it represents, or will they let it remain just pleasant background music? The lyrics, "One love, one heart, let's get together and feel all right," weren't just hopeful words. They were instructions, a technological manual for transcending the illusion of separation that keeps humans trapped in cycles of conflict and suffering. Bob embedded this test in a frequency so irresistible, so universally appealing, that it would reach every corner of human consciousness, giving each person the opportunity to recognize their true nature. The test isn't pass or fail, it's ongoing, moment by moment, choice by choice. When we hear One Love and feel something deeper than entertainment, when it makes us want to connect rather than compete, when it reminds us that beneath all superficial differences, we are one family sharing one planet, that's us passing the test. When we let it play in the background while remaining unconscious, when we sing along without feeling the unity it represents, when we appreciate the melody but ignore the message, that's valuable data too, showing us exactly where we are in our evolution. Bob Marley didn't just give us a beautiful song, he gave us a mirror, a measuring device, a cosmic litmus test that reveals whether we're ready to remember who we really are. The test continues every time One Love plays somewhere in the world, and the results determine whether humanity moves toward unity or remains trapped in the illusion of separation. In the comments below, share your experience. When you really listen to One Love, what do you feel? Do you sense the unity it's pointing toward, or does it feel like just another song? Use One Love test or your unity frequency to share how Bob's test is affecting your consciousness, because the results matter more than you might imagine.